June 15, 1961. Early in the morning, at 8:04 a.m., Mae Johnson walked into her daughter's bedroom. The bed was neatly made. The window was open. Ruthie was gone. For a moment, Mae stood frozen, confused, trying to understand what she was seeing. Ruthie was 16 years old. She never left without telling her mother. She never climbed out of windows. She never skipped school. Then, Mae saw the pillow. On it sat a folded piece of paper. Her hands shook as she picked it up. It wasn't written for a teenage girl. It was written for one man. Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. "We have your daughter. $500,000 by midnight, or she dies. Do not call the police. Do not try to find her. Just pay." Mae screamed. The sound cut through the house like a blade. Bumpy Johnson came up the stairs 3 at a time. He had survived prison riots, assassins, betrayals, and wars over territory, but nothing prepared him for the sight of his daughter's empty room. He read the note once, then again. His face didn't twist into panic. His hands didn't tremble from fear. What broke was the mask. For years, Harlem had known Bumpy Johnson as calm, controlled, calculated, a man who never raised his voice, a man who solved problems quietly. That man vanished. What remained was something colder, sharper, focused in a way that frightened even those closest to him. What happened next became legend, not because of how many people died, though some would, but because of what Bumpy Johnson accomplished in the next 4 hours. 4 hours to find his daughter in a city of 8 million people. 4 hours to dismantle a kidnapping planned for weeks. 4 hours that proved why there was one rule no one was ever allowed to break. You do not touch Bumpy Johnson's family. Ruth Johnson was 16 years old in 1961. She was Bumpy's only child, his pride, his weakness, his reason for restraint. From the moment she was born, Bumpy had built a wall between her and his world. She didn't grow up in nightclubs. She didn't sit in rooms where deals were made. She didn't hear the language of threats and violence. She went to school. She had friends. She worried about grades, clothes, music, and boys. She knew her father was important. She knew people respected him. But Bumpy made sure she never understood how dangerous his life really was. That protection was deliberate. Bumpy had seen too many children destroyed by the underworld. He knew families were leverage. He knew enemies didn't attack kings directly. They attacked what kings loved. And now, someone had crossed that line. At 8:05 a.m., Bumpy stood in Ruthie's room holding the note. His hands shook, not from fear, but from the effort of holding himself together. Mae was already on the phone, calling neighbors, friends, anyone who might have seen something. Bumpy went to the window. The fire escape. That told him everything. This wasn't random. This wasn't emotional. This was professional. The kidnappers had studied the house. They knew Ruthie left for school at the same time every morning. They knew exactly when to strike. She never made it to the street. Bumpy looked at his watch. 8:06 a.m. The note demanded money by midnight, but Bumpy didn't believe it. Kidnappers who planned carefully didn't wait that long. Too risky. Too many chances for mistakes. In Bumpy's mind, Ruthie had 4 hours, maybe less. He picked up the phone. Junie answered on the first ring. "Get everyone to Small's Paradise. Everyone. No questions." Within minutes, Harlem began to move. Bumpy's organization wasn't flashy, it wasn't chaotic, it was disciplined. Numbers runners, street enforcers, policy bankers, informants, dirty cops. Men who owed Bumpy loyalty. Men who would kill for him without hesitation. By 8:17 a.m., 37 men sat inside Small's Paradise. The restaurant was silent. Bumpy stood at the front holding the note. "Someone took my daughter." His voice was low, controlled, but the room felt heavy with fury. "They want $500,000. They think they can threaten my family and walk away." He looked around the room. Every man there had family, children, wives. What happened to Ruthie could happen to any of them. This wasn't just about Bumpy. This was about the code. Families were off limits. Orders went out immediately. Informants contacted. Cops questioned. Train stations watched. Bus terminals monitored. Airports checked. Docks locked down. Bartenders, doormen, street kids, anyone who might have seen something between 7:30 and 8 a.m. By 9:15 a.m., the first real lead arrived. A preacher with eyes everywhere had heard something. 2 men had been asking about Ruthie days earlier, asking about her school, her routine. White, Italian, one had a scar. They drank at a bar in Little Italy. Bumpy wrote it down. He didn't thank God. He didn't pray. He moved. Pressure came fast. A low-level enforcer cracked under fear. Names spilled. A warehouse near the docks in Red Hook. Still, something bothered Bumpy. The men involved were too small. They didn't have the authority to kidnap his daughter alone. Someone bigger was behind it. Bumpy made another call. A police detective who'd been on his payroll for years. The answer came quietly. Vito Genovese. Genovese wanted Harlem, wanted the numbers racket, wanted leverage. Using a child. That was the moment Bumpy stopped negotiating with time. He walked straight into Genovese's social club with armed men and no warning. No appointment, no permission. Guards reached for weapons and froze when guns met their heads. Genovese was playing cards when Bumpy entered. Surprise flickered across his face. "Where is my daughter?" Genovese denied everything, claimed innocence, warned of consequences. Bumpy listened, then made a promise. If Ruthie wasn't returned by noon, he would come back and leave with Genovese's body. No negotiations, no mercy. Bumpy walked out knowing one thing. Genovese was involved, but he wasn't giving up the location. Which meant Red Hook was real. Time was nearly gone. By late morning, Bumpy's men surrounded the warehouse. The docks were quiet, the streets empty. Inside, voices echoed. One of them was Ruthie's. Bumpy didn't hesitate. The door came down. Gunfire ended quickly. 2 kidnappers died instantly. The third grabbed Ruthie, pressed a knife to her throat. He thought fear would stop Bumpy Johnson. It didn't. One shot shattered the arm holding the blade. Ruthie was pulled free. Bumpy walked forward and finished it himself. Minutes later, he walked out carrying his daughter. She was alive. That should have been the end. It wasn't. What followed turned a violent rescue into legend. Instead of keeping the ransom money, instead of starting a war, Bumpy forced to sit down with the most powerful crime bosses in New York. In front of them all, Genovese was forced to apologize, forced to pay, forced to swear that Bumpy Johnson's family was untouchable. Harlem would remain independent. The money that arrived wasn't spent on power. Bumpy turned it into a scholarship fund, in Ruthie's name. Hundreds of children went to college because of it. Lives changed because one man refused to let his daughter's suffering end in silence. Bumpy Johnson died years later. Thousands attended his funeral. Very few knew what truly happened on June 15, 1961. But Ruthie knew, and she told her children. The story became legend, not because of the blood, but because of what followed it. 4 hours. That was all it took for Bumpy Johnson to prove that nothing, money, power, or war, was more important than family. That is why he was feared, and that is why he was respected.